and welcome to the Gritty Nurse Podcast, an unfiltered discussion related to nursing and healthcare. My name is Amy.
And my name is Sarah.
And we are your podcast hosts. Today, Sarah's at my place.
We are recording together for the first time ever.
Woohoo! So happy Valentine's Day, or not happy Valentine's Day, or whatever, whether you celebrate it or not. I thought it was a funny post up about how many pubic hairs will be shaved this coming week, and how many babies we'll see coming November 14th and onwards. But we wanted to talk a little bit today about, I guess, just something lighthearted and a little story about my Valentine's Day last year.
Yeah, so Valentine's Day 2019.
Yes.
We're going to rewind the clock exactly 1 year. And Amy's sort of going to talk about a little episode she had that I was part of as well.
Yes. And maybe even before that, do you want to talk a little bit about how your weekend has gone? Oh, yeah, by the way, here in Canada, if you're listening from out of the States, we actually have something called Family Day.
Which is the same thing as President's Day, but I feel like it's something the government made up so we could have a holiday in February.
Right.
Really, that's all it is.
I'm okay with it. It's another paid day.
Yeah.
At least for me. Yeah. So maybe we'll kind of just talk about our weekends, and then we'll kind of get right into Valentine's Day, February 2019.
Yeah. So last night, my husband and I had a date night. My mom came and babysat, but it started out really good. So we went to a place called Farmhouse Tavern in Toronto, which is always featured in Toronto Life. It's one of those hipster, cool places that has local cuisine and everything's written up on a blackboard.
Right.
So we both got this duck dish and we had fries to start with, and I had some drink. Probably this was the first mistake that I made. I had a drink that had gin in it with maple syrup and lemon juice.
Doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, it just tastes really good. But I've been having sort of stomach issues on and off all week. And then I think when I started drinking the gin, that was just the beginning of the end. So after dinner, I was like, we need to go walk around somewhere that's indoors. Well, where can you really walk indoors on a Sunday night? So I said, why don't we go to Walmart? I know it's really lame, but we need to get groceries anyway. And it's just somewhere indoors we can walk. And while we're going around doing groceries, I'm like, oh, my stomach feels really off. I think we just need to go home. And then we get home and I go to throw up. So that's the first thing that I do. And we've already gone home early. My mom was willing to babysit for longer. We just got home early. It was gross. I really, really hope to have a better New Year's or a better Valentine's Day next year. So that was my night.
Oh, no, that really is kind of a bummer.
I feel so much better now, though.
No more gin for you. Actually, it's kind of funny because I actually pulled out some wine and I was like, oh, maybe we can do our podcast and drink at the same time. But then I was like, okay, I guess not.
In my younger days, I would have said yes. I would have been like, I'm ready to go. I'm recovered now. Let's do it. Maybe not.
No. It's okay. So that's pretty neat. For myself, I had a date too, but it was a double date. So I actually went out with one of my friends, Holly, that I worked with as a nurse. And that was kind of our first time that we adulted. So it was kind of nice to be out. And then here we go with my jujitsu story. So this week we actually had somebody who was, they were actually doing a recording at the studio. And I didn't really want to be on camera. So I was like, can you blur my face? And they're like, no, we can't blur your face. But at the end of the class, I actually got a stripe.
Oh, is that like a badge of some kind?
I moved one level up. I'm like, I'm advancing in the jiu-jitsu world. So I have, I'm a white belt with now one additional stripe. So
when you told me that you had to record, you said, I'm recording for BJJ. So jiu-jitsu was not the first thing that came to my mind.
I should have qualified. Oh my God.
Because you texted me, sorry, I have to record for BJJ, and something else flashed into my mind.
That's my other life. Don't tell them. Oh my goodness. So we'll get into our topic today, and we're actually going to talk about my Valentine's Day last year. And really, I guess the topic of this episode would be why having nursing friends or having a work wife is really important.
Right, and I think as a secondary thing, you need to take care of your bladder. Bladder health is really important, and many people I've worked with know this about me, so they'll just look at me and they'll say, oh, I do need to go to the bathroom. Oh, Sarah's going to make me go to the bathroom. So that's my little secondary topic.
Yes, you did shuffle me off to the bathroom many times as we worked together. You're like, did you go pee? I'm like, oh no. And you're like, go. I'm like, oh. And it was painful because the bathroom was like right next to our office.
And so many times I would say to you, Amy, have you gone pee today? And you'd say no. And you'd be like, I have just one more email to finish off. And that would go on for about half an hour.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, so let me kind of try to think about how this day really started. So I guess even before I actually had to come to work on the 14th, the night before I was having a little bit of bladder issues, I guess. So I would get up and go to the bathroom and like I'd pee. And then I'd go back to bed. But then I felt like maybe 15 minutes later that I needed to pee again. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just get up and go pee again. But it was kind of doing that throughout the night, but it wasn't a lot of volume of pee, just like small little trickles. And so I got up probably around like 6:30 in the morning, and I was like, oh, this is really weird. Like my bladder feels really irritated. And I thought that maybe I just had like, some form of like cystitis or whatever, not like honeymoon cystitis, just like...
And you've had cystitis before?
Yes, I have.
So you know what that feels like?
Yes, so I just thought it was like an aggravated bladder, or maybe I had like an incoming bladder infection or whatever the case may be. So I was kind of like, whatever. And I was like, well, I need to go to work. I can't remember. Oh my gosh, yes. The reason I was like so concerned about going to work was because I had someone that I was orienting or something.
You had 2 people that you're orienting. So let me just jump in here while I can. So I get a text from Amy. It's around 7 a.m. And I think you said something like, I'm not really feeling great today.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, well, you should stay home. Because obviously I don't want you to come in if you're not feeling well. But that day, we had orientation for 2 new staff. I was relatively new, so I'd been there maybe 2 months. And I never even done orientation myself. I had no idea what Amy did for the staff because we covered different units. So I bravely said I would do whatever it needed to be done. If she couldn't make it that day.
Yeah, and I think there was general orientation too. So it was like you had to do that special presentation in the afternoon for the entire staff. Yeah. Oops. So so I messaged Sarah and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to make it in, and I started feeling bad. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna will myself to go to work today. So I started trying to kind of get into the car, and then I had the worst pain that ever hit me. Like it was. I didn't even know what to think. I was just kind of like, oh, my hip, and I couldn't walk. So I was like, okay, well, I really don't think I'll be able to go in today.
And then I think I got another text either from you, or I think what happened was I tried to call you, and then your husband picked up and said, Amy's really not feeling well right now. I don't think she can come in. So that was fine. I'm
pretty sure I was like screaming
and then
in the background.
And I think internally I was panicking because we had orientation scheduled in a room that nobody knew where it was. Right. So I remember driving to work, and because I couldn't check my phone and drive at the same time, I remember calling the unit and saying to the person that answered, could you just please put a sign on the door? I explained what the room or where it was, that orientation is going to be delayed by, I think, 45 minutes or something like that.
Right.
And then she said, okay, no problem. And then I think the reason I called you is because I didn't know what to go over. I didn't have the slides or any content. And then you told me that you were going to send it to me, but you didn't, obviously. Very understandably, because you were probably on your way to the hospital. But then I was like, what am I going to go over with these staff? Because there's no time to tell them not to come. There's no time to plan anything. And I just need these slides that you keep talking about. But I didn't have the slides, so I just didn't know what to do.
But it was like, oh, so like I remember actually hearing you call, and I actually called my boss too. And I think my husband had the same conversation, like, oh, she can't come to the phone because I was like screaming out in pain. And I just remember my husband kind of coming back to the bathroom, and I was sitting on the toilet. And I was just like, the pain, it's so bad. And I think I like passed out, and he was like shaking me, because I just remember like kind of being shook and like my eyes opening. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, you need to call an ambulance. So eventually an ambulance comes, and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely not going to work today. And I guess the long and short of it was I had a kidney stone. But the story doesn't end there, because I needed my journey to go to the hospital. So they're trying to pick me up off the bathroom floor of my house, and every inch they kind of moved me, I was in like excruciating pain, and they're like, okay, we're gonna give you some morphine, and I was like, okay. So they gave me morphine. I think they gave me morphine. They gave me naproxen. They gave me, oh my gosh, what's the other N one? There's another. Oh, I can't remember They gave me a shit ton of meds, really. And I just remember, like, the meds would start to work, and they're like, so what's your pain? I'm like, oh, my pain's like a 5. And then as soon as it wore off, I'm like, oh, 10, 10! And then they like, shoot me with the pain meds again, and I'd be, like, back to sleep. It was a wild ride. And then I got to the hospital, and they're just like, we're gonna need to collect a urine sample. I'm like, are these people serious? Like, I can barely stand up, and they need to collect a urine sample. So I remember so I think I got to the hospital around like 8:15, and by around 2:30, I was starting to feel a little bit better, and I finally had the will enough to actually get up out of the triage bay, because of course I'm in the ED. There's no place to really put me. So luckily enough, I actually did get a room. So
and did you tell people you were a nurse? No?
I don't think so. Did I? I think it came out at the end when after my pee-pee sample. So I'm like, give me the cup, I'll go pee. So they gave me the cup, and I went to the bathroom, and I'm peeing, and I felt this like thing. And I was like, what the hell? And I look, and there's like a little stone, like a fully fledged formed stone. And I was like, oh my God, like I passed kidney stone. But it only gets better. So I put the sample on the desk, and I kind of wait because the physician wants to see whatever kind of stone it was. So I'm kind of sitting there waiting. I think at some point it did come out that I was a nurse, because now I had my wits about me, and I was able to kind of speak a little bit more. And the physician comes over, and he's like super happy, and I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? He's like, I am so thrilled that this had happened today. I'm like, you're thrilled that I had a kidney stone? And he's like, no, look at this. And he shows me my kidney stone in the like urine filled bottle, and my kidney stone is the shape of a heart. And he's just like, do you mind if I put this on Instagram? And I was just like, sure, dude. Like, go ahead and do whatever you want. He's like, it's Valentine's, and you passed a heart-shaped kidney stone. And I'm like, yep.
He seems oddly happy.
He was so happy. He's like, I'm gonna take a picture of this, and I'm gonna put it on my Instagram. I'm like,
and you also texted me that picture shortly after that.
Yes, so I will post the picture for all to see my heart-shaped kidney stone.
Well, I think it was almost to prove to me that you didn't need to come in, like you couldn't come in, which yes. I was more than happy to cover for. I think just backing up the story a little bit, I didn't get the slides from Amy. I ended up getting them from your husband around, I would say 10 or 10:30.
Okay.
So I was just in the room with these 2 new hires. I had already given them a tour of the unit. I was dying, okay? I was going over policies. I was going over how to check your pay stub. I was going over e-learning. I was showing them where the library was. And then I was sort of talking to them about what their schedule might look like, but that led to more questions that I couldn't answer. So when I got these slides, I was thinking, thank God I have them. But I just didn't have time to process the slides, so it ended up being me, of course, reading them off a little bit. And I know there were some hands-on activities I was supposed to do, but I don't think I could find half the equipment. So there was the pregnant belly and maybe a placenta, but I don't think I could find the doll or something like that. So it's just me really just using the equipment for the sake of using it. It wasn't very interactive.
I'm sure they knew, like, they were none the wiser, and I'm sure it was fine.
I'm just really glad it was a small group, so we sort of got to have some small group discussion about things they wanted to know about. And the other hard thing was, one of them was really experienced, and the other one was brand new. So it wasn't even like I could really tailor something for them to do, because I felt like the one that was experienced just wanted to know things like, what's the schedule like? And the one that was new kind of wanted to know what her day would look like.
Okay.
So it was sort of hard to tailor it, and I think the long and short of it is, we were just really concerned about Amy. And the fact that Amy was texting us was really nice because it just showed me that she was still conscious and she still had some capacity to be texting at that time.
Every once in a while I was lucid in between the pain meds, I was like, text Sarah, go back to sleep, text Sarah. But I think, again, that's why it's important to have like your work wife or like, your a really good friend or colleague that you would consider like your nursing other half, so to speak. So I mean, I was glad and thankful to have Sarah, and I mean, she's helped me through a lot of various different things. And to be honest, I'm not trying to get mushy here, but like I think Sarah's kind of impacted my life in a really good way, and I don't know how I would have gotten through this year without having someone like her.
Aw, you
Oh.
never told me that before.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about you. I also feel like we were in a work environment that wasn't very understanding of needing to be off for various different reasons. And I almost feel like that's why you kept needing to justify to me and to other people why you need to be off. Because I feel like if we were in a more supportive environment, just one message to say that you were sick would have been enough. But I almost feel like you needed to keep sending me these messages and whoever just to prove that you were really sick enough to be off.
Yeah, it was crazy because like even afterwards, I was getting email and Slack from some of the other people, other educators that were just like, oh, well, if you're going to be off, you should let us know in advance. Like, really, there was no way I was going to know in advance that I was going to have a kidney stone.
Right.
But I guess it's just that mentality where it's just like they were so not understanding that even with something very serious that they just didn't really care. It was just like, oh, well, next time make sure that you let us know that you're going to be off. There's no way I would have known.
I think another educator was supposed to be off and you were supposed to be covering for her, but because she was off and you were unexpectedly off with your kidney stone,
oh yes, that's how it worked.
Then something fell through the cracks, and then some other person was mad that nobody answered their email or addressed something that was happening that day.
Right.
And I think the backup would have been me, right?
Yes.
But then I didn't know this other stuff was happening and that there was an email that you had missed. There was no way I would have known that.
Yeah, it was a highly complex situation, and I think what we would have all appreciated was a little bit more understanding. I was ill. The other person who was supposed to be covering for me was ill. You didn't know that I would have been ill. So there's no way that you could put like 3 different plans in place for if that person's sick and then the other person that's sick and then the other person can't do it. So I think people just need to be more understanding and understand that sometimes illness happens just randomly and you just can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And now that Amy and I don't work together anymore, I kind of feel like we're work wives at a distance, or maybe we're work wives that are separated, but we have this project that brings us together. Like this podcast is our child,
Yes.
and it brings us back together periodically, and then we get to see each other for that time.
Yes.
Kind of.
And then like we try to kind of do stuff like outside of our podcast. Like every once in a while we'll try to get together, whether it's like for Christmas or Valentine's Day, because I think the plan is to try to do some cookies after this with our kids, which I'm sure my kitchen will be a hot mess.
Yeah. For those parents out there, I'm not sure how you podcast with kids. Amy and I always podcast at night after the kids go to sleep. This is the first time we've tried to podcast with them around, and we've had to take 4 of them out of the house just to play at the park, so we can have some quiet.
Because it was wild. Like they were I think just with the excitement of having other people over, my kids were just like, "Rah!" and like running around, and one of them was like banging on the shutters. I'm like, oh my god, what's happening here? So like, yeah, I'm glad that they're out they're probably having a nice little nature walk. It's sunny. Is it cold outside? Because I haven't been out.
No, the snow's melting, so it's
Okay.
above freezing at least.
Okay.
I was gonna say above 0 degrees, but maybe that's more like above 32 degrees Fahrenheit
Very
for
good.
people that are in the States or
Your
whatever.
good nursing knowledge.
Yep.
Good translation there.
Yeah.
And maybe just why else do you think it would be important to have a work wife other than being like, I'm sick, I need someone to cover for me?
Well, I think just bonding together over a common experience is really important, whether or not it's good or bad. It's always good to have someone watch your back.
Right.
And it just makes the whole experience better because, like, I think we talked about in our bullying episode how you can be in a really negative environment, but if there's one person that can help you get through, sometimes maybe that's all you need. And you have each other, and whether or not you work together often, you at least have someone that you can go to for emotional support.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I just find that, like, I've hung out with other people who aren't nurses, and not saying that they're not cool people, but I find that, some of our humor is relatively the same. Some of the things that we might find funny, others might find disgusting or whatever. But like to us, it's just like, oh yeah, we get that, because it's kind of like a healthcare connection that you have with other healthcare professionals. So it's just nice to kind of have that share that
Mm-hmm.
common, I guess, I don't want to say goal, but common.
Well,
I
I
don't
know
know what the
myself.
word is, but
I
yeah.
know myself. I'm always looking at people's veins. I don't know if you ever do that. I look at people's veins and I think, man, I could get that easily with my eyes closed. It's just I'm really satisfied by like getting the vein and getting that blood return. I don't know. It's just
Well,
a little thing that I have. Maybe not so much
I don't
you.
know. I don't know if I look at people's veins, but now this kind of brings up, this is just super random, that I remember we're actually learning about IVs, and Jordan has really, really good veins. And so I was like, let me practice on you. Do I miss? Like, he's got the biggest veins. He literally said to me, he's like, Amy, I'm pretty sure the needle's touching my elbow.
Oh
I
jeez.
was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
I thought you were gonna say that he passed out from seeing the
No,
blood.
no, I think I just, instead of going in at that like 35-degree angle, I think I went like in a 90 and tried to like thread it through, and it's just
Oh
like,
jeez.
yeah, so
I think in your
I'm way better
defense, though,
now.
I think in your defense, though, you're used to starting IVs on women instead of men. Maybe that's the
No,
problem.
no. No, I just really sucked at that time. Way better now.
I also really like doing blood work on babies. I know this sounds weird, but when you get the heel poke
Yeah.
and you're milking the blood, and it's just so satisfying to have it like touch the paper or whatever you're
With the
putting
baby
it
going,
on. Sugar water, my friend.
okay, yes. Or
Yeah,
skin to skin.
yeah, yeah.
Anyways, any other things that you can think of that you'd like to talk about, or?
Not for this topic. I feel like we have a lot of other things to say, but we're
Yeah,
going to
like,
save a lot for next week because we want a podcast about racism in healthcare. I know there's a lot of comments going on online.
oh my god,
We
it's
definitely
blowing up,
want to
yeah.
address that, but we feel like we just want to have everybody provide their input, and then we also have our own opinions on that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that'll be, I don't want to say it'll be a series because I don't know, but I think just even from some of the comments I've been seeing, I didn't think, I probably should have been more cognizant, thinking that it probably would have hit a nerve, but I think we're well over 250 comments now in terms of people's experiences, what they've seen, what they've perceived. Yeah, so I think it'll be
Yeah.
an interesting topic, and definitely a heavy one. So come with your listening ears, because we'll probably have a lot to say.
Yep.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Gritty Nurse podcast. If you enjoy listening and would like to support us, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And our episodes are available for download on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can send us a question, comment, or suggestion for a podcast conversation. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.